Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this Adnexi live stream. My name is Sandra Shpilberg. I am the founder and CEO of Adnexi, a disease intelligence platform for patients and biopharma. We're streaming simultaneously today to my LinkedIn profile, Adnexi's Facebook page, and the YouTube channel. And all of our past episodes of this series can be found on our website, adnexi.com. We hold these live streams to learn more about the journey of patients, patient advocates, researchers, and biopharma as they collaborate to bring new treatments to those who need them. And please feel free to ask any questions. What we'll do in this live, we'll bring the questions in and answer them for you. Today, my guest is Andra Stratton. Andra is a professional rare disease advocate. After her diagnosis with familial partial lipodystrophy, she founded Lipodystrophy United and worked to build the lipodystrophy community. Over the last 10 years, she's gained experience working with multiple stakeholders in all phases of rare disease drug development in order to increase patient-driven research, treatment options, and patient care. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you, Andra. Hello.
Hello, Sandra. Thank you so much for having me today. Really.
Yes, my pleasure. So why don't we start at the beginning? I love to understand your journey into becoming a champion for rare diseases.
Well, thank you so much for saying champion. I think there are so many champions in rare disease. I'm not sure I'm qualified to be on that list, but I am very passionate about rare disease. I started my journey into rare pretty shortly after my diagnosis. I was diagnosed when I was 37, even though I was born with a mutation. So it was, I suppose you could say, a 37-year diagnostic journey, which is far too long. Once I was diagnosed with lipodystrophy, familial partial lipodystrophy, I realized, first of all of my 37 years of health mysteries made sense. So while I wasn't actually seeking a diagnosis, it was incredibly comforting to know that I wasn't indeed a hypochondriac or crazy. So that was great. But I was very quickly, once I did a search, I realized there are so many people out there with lipodystrophy and with other rare diseases. But with lipodystrophy specifically, this is a disease that has been known in research for many, many, many years. But there was almost no information out there that was patient-friendly, and that seemed unacceptable to me, really. Once I met other patients who were sicker than I was, I thought, no, we must be able to at least improve the state of awareness and information in rare disease. And I think, like most people, once you get a little bit involved, you realize how much there is to do, and it becomes your world. So now we're almost 10 years later. I started a foundation, our community grew. We have multiple clinical trials, one approved treatment for one type of lipodystrophy, and most importantly, a place for individuals to go to get some answers so they don't feel so alone.
Exactly. And I think that is super important, right? To belong to the community, right? And know that you're not alone as you're fighting or, managing a rare disease. So what are other benefits that patients get from being part of a patient community?
Well, I mean, I think there are many. In addition to not feeling alone, you have an opportunity to share and talk about your challenges that you have living with the disease, that you have with your family members not understanding. So there's that whole emotional support. But you also have the ability to get connected with other researchers or specialists. You can hear from others who live, even though we're all across the world. It's really nice to be able to at least identify some opportunities to receive care. I think there's additional opportunities just to get involved in more of a rare disease movement. one can get involved in policy. They perhaps really research or learning about the disease or participating in a clinical trial isn't for you, but you do want to make an impact. So you can get involved with some of the umbrella organizations that work on policy or work on other areas of increasing diagnosis for other rare diseases, to name a few. I mean, there's a
that
lot.
makes perfect sense. Andra, I think what I love about your story is that, you got diagnosed, and then obviously that answered a bunch of questions for you. But at the same time, you took this to be a leadership opportunity for you, like an opportunity to display and serve others. And that's really admirable. So what does it mean to be a professional rare disease advocate?
Well, so to really be an advocate in rare disease and understand all of the components of your own specific rare disease, as well as the landscape of rare disease, from basic research to translational research to working with biotech and other stakeholders on clinical trials, and then going through the regulatory process, and then what does it mean for your community if there's a treatment and if that treatment gets approved. So it's like a whole professional world. And to really understand all of that requires a lot of work and should be acknowledged as a full-time job, whether a foundation lead gets paid or not. It certainly requires 100% effort. I think that there's a role for everyone, and I think that every single role is important. But when we talk about professional advocates, or we talk about working with advocates in different areas of the rare disease journey, I think it's really important that people acknowledge where they have expertise and where they don't have expertise. So I think that patients should always be at the table. I think that it's so important that all of our stakeholders include us in all of the processes. But if you're an advocate and you know just a very little bit about you know a lot about your own experience, right? You're an expert in your experience, but you don't know that much about maybe the regulatory process. I think it's important to say, if you're given the opportunity to speak with a stakeholder about the regulatory process, I think it's important to say, that's not actually my area of expertise. There's another avenue in which I can provide true benefit. And if it's just about living with the disease, that's not a just. That's a huge, important aspect. And then you could participate in an ad board, or telling a story, telling your personal story in different avenues. So there's a lot of different ways. So that's my long-winded answer to, there's a lot of different ways to become a professional advocate. But just like any other profession, there are areas of expertise. And so I think we need to really think about that. But then as the landscape, really identify and value advocates' time.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. A place for everyone, and then each person to sort of have some awareness as to where they may have some talent that they can bring, right, to this equation of collaborating to develop new treatments. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Andra.
I'm so sorry, Sandra. I just had one more thought on that I think is really important we start addressing, and that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. In rare disease in general, I think healthcare in general, we have strong inequities, particularly with people of color. And I think that when we talk about professional advocates and we talk about people's expertise and time, I want to go back to valuing that time, because I don't think we're going to really be able to increase diversity in the rare disease space, particularly in advocacy, until our partners compensate for time. It's just, I think we have real inequities that we don't talk about, because not everyone is in the position to start a foundation and give all of their time pro bono. So I think we need to think about
that. Makes perfect sense. So basically what you're saying is, in order to have diversity, there has to be a different system that actually compensates for the time, the resources that a person might invest, right, in this endeavor, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people might not be able to just volunteer time. They're busy having 2 jobs, right?
Having a rare disease themselves or a child with a rare disease. I mean, it is juggling like more than an octopus would.
Yes.
And we really have been fortunate to see our policies and procedures change in this area. It's so fantastic that we're accepted much more at the table, but I do think that there's an unrealistic balance of what we need to know and who can do it for free.
Exactly. Because not everyone can do things for free. In fact, I feel most people, right, need to be paid for their time. There's only a few people that can do it for free.
Nor should they, right?
Right.
I mean, it often falls. There are certainly examples where this is not happening, but let's face it, the majority of foundations are run by moms, and that's often because they have spouses who are bringing in an income, and that seems very outdated. It's a very outdated structure.
Yes, I agree. Let's move on now to talk about drug development, treatment development for rare diseases. And I know you've had a lot of experience working at that cross section where stakeholders come in, the patients, the biopharmaceutical companies, the clinics or hospitals that are going to be administering the clinical trial. So what are some best practices there? That's the first question. And then I want to get to the second question of how do we make it even better? So what works well now in terms of this relationship between the patients, biopharma, the researchers, right, and the hospitals that are actually generally administering the clinical trial?
Yes, so it's getting better and better. And I think the best practices that you'll see across the board, everyone will say early and often. Right? It is never too early to engage with the patient foundation, and it is not a tick the box. It is certainly a relationship that should be developed as early as possible and then continued throughout each stage of the process. I've been really lucky to work with a few companies at different stages of the process. When I started, it was really almost at the post-market phase, like phase 4. And that was too late. And we saw the consequence of that being that the FDA just did not understand enough about the burden of the disease, and the endpoints measured weren't the right endpoints, and it was financially very costly. And then as I've worked with other companies and other treatments, I've started from the very beginning where the company has called me before they've called the expert physicians. And that has created a really nice collaboration because the patient foundation can really often be the bond, the center of the circle that really brings in all of the collaborators. I would say another best practice is that is perhaps skipped quite a bit now is if a company is getting really creating a relationship with the patient foundation, it's really important to include any contract organizations then that the company works with. So we know that that often the clinical trials are run by a CRO or marketing or another area, and it's really important that at each phase the patient foundation is brought in so that everyone continues to be on the same playing field, really, so we all have the same information. And with hospitals, it's the same. I mean, patients can and willingly help with recruitment, but we shouldn't be used as just a recruitment tool. There's a lot of opportunity to help educate and improve the experience for the patients who are participating in clinical trials so that they continue, right? Retention, recruitment and retention is what we all want.
Right,
so
exactly.
Involved in the process through the whole way can really help everyone.
Great. And I really want to highlight the early and often, because I think that is a key aspect there for the best practice. I want to bring in one of the comments here that we just got. Love this type of discussion. So thank you so much for the comment. Thank you. We love having these discussions. Yeah. Excellent. So now let's go to the second part of the question, Andra. What else needs to change? How does this need to become better so that hopefully these drugs get developed, these treatments get developed faster, get developed in a better way? So what needs to change?
Wow, that's the magic question. What needs to change? Certainly, and we all are saying it, what we're seeing right now with COVID is that the process can go faster, right?
Yes.
And it should go faster. So I think, one, the process needs to continue to be safe, but we can move it a little bit faster. And whether that means we look, well, and at every different phase, right? So the planning phase, let's make sure we take the time to work with patients. Let's make sure we're developing the clinical trial in a way that is going to be able to accurately recruit the patients we need and retain them. Yes. So if we need to take a little extra time there, that is fine. But I think that we need to continue to work with the FDA and recognizing that maybe phase 2 and 3 could be done together. We really need to be able to potentially expand our inclusion criteria. In rare, we have so few patients, and it is really challenging if we have such a narrow criteria at a starting point. It's just almost impossible to recruit the patients in a timely manner to keep the process moving forward. So I would say those are a few things that we really need to continue to work on. And I think we need consistency, right? In the years of acknowledging the patient needs to be part of the process, we've made so many advances, but patient input or patient focused really means different things to different people. And I think we have a lack of consistency in what that looks like. So I think we need a little more consistency there.
Yes, thanks, Andra. And it's so true right now with COVID-19, it's shown that
I think I've lost Sandra, or maybe it's me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, there you are.
We're back. Anyway, we seem to be back. So yeah, it takes many years to develop a new treatment. And now, we're seeing that things can be developed much faster. Things can go much faster when there's really pressure, right? Demand. But with rare diseases, there's always pressure and demand. It's just not as visible, right, as it's been here with this pandemic, but it's always been there. And I think that that's what we need to realize. The pressure and demand is there. There are people with rare disease, and the disease is progressing until a treatment is developed. Mm-hmm. Great. So I want to finish.
I think acknowledging that and giving the respect to the patients and understanding that we are racing the clock and we're leading these initiatives for very meaningful reasons, just like we are in COVID, not impacting everyone all the same, but I think still that's the issue there.
Excellent. Very good. Here's the last question, Andra, for you that I always like to ask everyone that I talk to. So if you had one wish that could be granted you for the rare disease community, what would that be?
I thought a lot about this. A lot of my conversations I have, I just ad hoc answer. This one was not one wish. I'm going to give you an and in there, but I found a way to work around just one wish. My wish is that we can find in an equitable way, provide diagnosis and access to treatment for all rare diseases.
Yes.
I don't think that we can wish that all diseases are cured. I think, sure, we can wish that. But is that a meaningful statement that we're going to be able to achieve immediately? I don't think so. But we need to increase equity in our healthcare system, particularly in rare disease. And we need for people to receive in an equitable way a diagnosis and the treatment that they need to improve their lives. Not all individuals in the rare disease community want a cure. They feel like they're not broken and they don't want to be treated as broken. But we still need to improve quality of life and have access to those treatments that improve quality of life. So is that one wish? I feel like I got it in there.
That's like one wish. Yeah, I think you did a good job making it one wish. So I hope that wish becomes a reality. And I really enjoy talking to you, Andra. Thank you for doing all the work that you do for the rare disease community. And for anyone watching, we have a lot more episodes like this in the series. They're all at adnexi.com, our website. And see you all next time.